One of the most successful ways to address ADHD is through education. By learning about the condition, something that becomes a lot easier when you tap into the wealth of ADHD resources available, you gain a greater understanding of how it affects you or your child. You also become more aware of what treatment options there are and may realize that you are not alone in your challenges. There are many types of resources for ADHD. Read on and explore everything from in-person support groups and conferences to websites and books. You can also find resources you can use to learn more about the benefits to which you or your child are entitled. National support organizations CHADD, Children and Adults with ADHD. CHADD, CHADD.org, is the largest national support organization for ADHD. It provides education, advocacy, and support for children and adults living with ADHD and their families, as well as teachers and healthcare professionals. CHADD offers programs and services locally and nationally. Every year CHADD hosts a conference where speakers talk about ADHD and the latest research findings. The CHADD website has a resource directory where you can find ADHD professionals in your state. Examples of those listed are physicians, pediatricians, nurse practitioners, speech-language pathologists, psychologists, coaches, and education specialists. ADDA, Attention Deficit Disorder Association. ADDA, AD.org, provides information and training resources for adults with ADHD, and promotes ADHD awareness. The organization also spearheads advocacy efforts, for example, advocating for ADHD treatment in correctional facilities. They also have virtual support groups. You can connect with other people living with ADHD, even if you live in a remote location. ADDA has a resource directory of professionals who specialize in ADHD, including coaches, bookkeepers, professional organizers, doctors, and psychiatrists. ADHD Awareness Month. ADHD Awareness Month is held annually each October. It brings attention to a condition that is still misunderstood by many people. Each year has a theme. For example, The Many Faces of ADHD highlighted that ADHD affects all ages, genders, and social and economic groups. The month also celebrates the positive aspects of ADHD. Many health groups and government agencies get involved. You can learn more at ADHDawarenessmonth.org. Books. There are many helpful books about ADHD. Some people with ADHD struggle to read a book cover to cover. However, these books can be dipped into as a reference. Most are available in an audio version, so they can be listened to rather than read, if that is preferable to you. For parents of kids with ADHD taking charge of ADHD, The Complete, Authoritative Guide for Parents by Russell A. Barkley, Ph.D. This book gives a detailed account of what ADHD is, its symptoms, and how it is diagnosed. It provides practical advice about working with your child's school and parenting strategies. 1000 Best Tips for ADHD, Expert Answers and Bright Advice to Help You and Your Child by Susan Ashley, Ph.D. This concise and easy-to-read book offers parents helpful solutions to some common challenges of raising a child with ADHD. ADHD, What Everyone Needs to Know by Stephen P. Hinshaw and Catherine Ellison. In this question-and-answer style book, the authors answer the most pressing questions people have about ADHD in children and adults. For children with ADHD, check out this list of books written specifically for children with ADHD to help them understand more about their condition and its symptoms. Books for children with ADHD. For adults with ADHD, Natural Relief for Adult ADHD, Complementary Strategies for Increasing Focus, Attention, and Motivation with or Without Medication by Stephanie Sarkis, Ph.D. People are usually very curious about whether ADHD can be treated naturally. In this book, the author offers a comprehensive overview of the different options, all backed by the latest research. The Queen of Distraction: How Women with ADHD Can Conquer Chaos, Find Focus, and Get More Done by Terry Matlin, MSW. This book addresses the problems women have with ADHD, including how hormones affect ADHD symptoms and the different stages of life. ADD and Your Money: A Guide to Personal Finance for Adults with Attention Deficit Disorder by Stephanie Sarkis, Ph.D., and Carl Klein, J.D. ADHD symptoms can make organizing personal finances very challenging. This book gives practical ideas and solutions so you can pay your bills on time and plan for the future. Fast Minds. How to Thrive If You Have ADHD, or Think You Might, by Craig Sermon, MD, Tim Bilkey, MD, and Karen Weintraub. A practical guide to help you and your loved ones understand ADHD symptoms and develop strategies to put a stop to being chronically overwhelmed. The ADHD Effect on Marriage. Understand and Rebuild Your Relationship in 6 Steps by Melissa Orlev. Untreated ADHD symptoms such as forgetfulness or impulsivity may cause conflict in marriages. This book addresses these patterns and offers 6 steps to rebuild a relationship. The Mindfulness Prescription for Adult ADHD by Lydia Zylovska, MD. Mindfulness can help adults with ADHD improve focus and attention. In this book, Dr. Zylovska explains the benefits and how to practice mindfulness in your life. Job accommodations. If ADHD symptoms are causing problems for you at your workplace, you might be eligible to have job accommodations. In the United States, there are 2 laws designed to provide workplace protection for employees who have disabilities: the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and the Americans with Disabilities Act Amendments Act, ADAAA, of 2008.1. If you need help understanding how these apply to you and your place of work, the Job Accommodation Network, JAN, can help. This organization offers incredible, free services and is very approachable. Accommodations for students with ADHD. Federal law requires schools to provide equal education opportunities to students with disabilities. ADHD students are eligible for an individual accommodation plan under Section 504.2. However, many parents have experienced problems getting these accommodations for their children. In July 2016, the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights issued a report for school districts with guidance on how to create and follow Section 504 plans for students with ADHD. Get a better understanding of how to get a 504 plan for your child by reading the office's Know Your Rights. Students with ADHD Guide, PDF, Point 3. Summer camps for kids with ADHD. There are camps designed and run especially for kids with ADHD. They cater to the unique challenges that children with ADHD face, like building self-esteem and keeping friends. At the same time, they ensure the children have a positive summer experience. ADHD Summer Camps. A list of ADHD day and residential summer camps. Magazines about ADHD. Attitude, Strategies and Support for ADHD and LD. This lifestyle magazine devoted to living with ADHD is published quarterly and is available in print and digital versions. It covers a broad range of topics on ADHD and learning disabilities. Topics include parenting children with ADHD, relationship advice for adults with ADHD, medication, and alternative therapies. Attention Magazine. This magazine is designed to keep parents and adults living with ADHD up to date about ADHD issues. It is published 6 times a year by CHAD and is available to the organization's members in both print and digital versions. ADHD Documentary. The documentary, ADD and Loving It, follows comedian Patrick McKenna as he is diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. It uncovers many of the myths about ADHD and is informative, yet fun. When it aired on PBS, many viewers recognized themselves in the description of the ADHD symptoms and, as a result, were diagnosed. Podcasts are a great resource when you have ADHD. You can listen and learn about the latest ADHD research, even while performing another task, like housework. Here are 4 compelling ADHD podcasts. Attitude ADHD Experts Podcast. Leading experts in the ADHD world share their knowledge. Distraction with Dr. Ned Hallowell. The Distraction Podcast is hosted by Dr. Edward Hallowell, ADHD expert, author and psychiatrist. ADHD Rewired with Eric Tevers, hosted by coach and therapist Eric Tevers. Adult ADHD ADD Podcast, hosted by Bauman Saram and ADHD coach Michael Joseph Ferguson. Websites and blogs about ADHD. Blogs. There are many blogs about ADHD to choose from, and they can be a great source of information. Blogs often offer accounts of the blogger's personal ADHD challenges. Some popular ADHD blogs include An ADD Woman and Impact ADHD. While blogs may or may not be written by credentialed experts, there are typically more cases of the latter. They can often offer real-life perspectives you may find helpful. Websites. Reputable websites can further educate you on ADHD, and you can start right here with Verywell. We have an extensive library of articles on core topics, like symptoms, how ADHD is diagnosed in children and adults, how it is treated, and more. We also write on many of the lesser-known aspects of life with ADHD, such as tips for meal planning.